Good evening. This is going to be an audio-only recording, as I am wanting to just provide you a devotion this evening as we have arrived at Maundy, Thursday. But before I get into this devotion, I do want to take a moment to read to you a passage from John chapter 13, verses 1 through 17. Hear these words. Now, before the festival of the Passover, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The devil had already put into the heart of Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray him. And during supper, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, that he had come from God and was going to God, got up from the table, took off his outer robe, and tied a towel around himself. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and wipe them with a towel that was tied around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus answered, "You do not know now what I am doing, but later you will understand." Peter said to him, "You will never wash my feet." And Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no share with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." And Jesus said to him, "One who has bathed does not need to wash, except for the feet, but is entirely clean. And you are clean, though not all of you." For he knew who was to betray him. For this reason he said, "Not all of you are clean." After he had washed their feet, had put on his robe, and had returned to the table, he said to them, "Do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for that is what I am. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have set you an example, that you also should do as I have done to you. Very truly I tell you, servants are not greater than their master, nor are messengers greater than the one who sent them. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them." This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. I want to share with you some thoughts this evening as we come to this holy time and holy preparation of Jesus getting to the end of his earthly life here. You know, the most important question I get asked during Holy Week is really about this night, the Thursday before Easter. It seems to be the majority of people understand Palm Sunday, they understand Good Friday, and even Easter itself for the resurrection. But tonight, Monday, Thursday, seems to be kind of unclear. And the one thing people want to know the most is, what does Monday mean? And it's a good question. Who uses the term Monday in their daily life, right? For those on the outside of the church, and even for those of us on the inside, it might just sound like a church service where we know we should want to go to it, but we have no idea why. But before I talk about what the word means, I want to go back to that story we read from the gospel. In it, Jesus has gone to Jerusalem for the Passover. He's gathered his 12 disciples there at the table. He knows what is going to happen. He knows that by the end of the night, one of them will betray him to the authorities. One will deny him 3 times, and all of them will leave him alone in his hour of greatest pain. And yet, there he is, breaking the bread, pouring the cup, eating with them, blessing them, getting down on his knees and washing their feet, showing them his grace and love and compassion in a time when we might have better understood his wrath or even better understood his anger. By the way, it is important to note that feet washing is a crucial process in the ministry of Jesus. In fact, many denominations like the Brethren Church honor feet washing as a holy sacrament. Now, when you think about it, the feet of those disciples were very dirty. But why? Well, they walked around barefooted or in sandals in an area where dust and sand is dominant. The feet were filthy, and yet here comes a man who will humble himself and clean their feet. Sounds like Jesus. Jesus humbled himself and came to make us clean, forgiven people. Jesus has that power, and so we can't overlook the importance of feet washing. But another thing that I often think about it when I read this story and look at feet washing and Maundy, Thursday, is I often think about the world that we live in. In a world where we are often surrounded by messages of retaliation or vengeance, or even that eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, Jesus has given us a different message here. I mean, Jesus had done nothing wrong. He lived a life of nonviolence. He healed the sick. He raised the dead. He freed the captives. He brought hope and life to those who needed it the most. And in the end, he knew that he was not about to be thanked. He was about to be killed. Because in the end, the goodness and the kindness and the compassion he had brought were more of a threat to the Roman authorities and clergy of his day than any weapon or any army. He so radically upset the status quo that they decided their only choice was to kill him. The night before, he wasn't running away. He wasn't preparing for a battle. He wasn't plotting his revenge. Instead, he was with the ones he loved the most. The ones who loved him, who weren't perfect. The ones who knew who he was and what he had done. And the ones who would be the witnesses to his life after he was gone. And this is where the word Maundy comes in. Because what do you do if you're Jesus? What do you do if you know you're not going to be around much longer? What do you do? Well, the word Maundy comes from the Latin word that means mandate or commandment. And when we talk about Maundy, Thursday, we're really talking about Commandment Thursday. We're talking about the night that Jesus told his disciples exactly what he expected of them because he was about to be crucified. So, for example, you read a book, you watch a movie. About almost everyone else you might think is the lead character would be saying something like, avenge my death, or make sure there's payback for what they've done to me, or don't let them get away with this, strike back. All these characters would be saying those things. But this isn't our story here. This story turns everything on its head. The mandate, the mandatory thing Jesus tells us to do in this passage is to do what? If you read on, I give you a new commandment, to love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also should love one another. And by this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you have love for one another. A movie like this probably wouldn't do well in the box office. The story wouldn't soar to the top of the New York Times bestsellers list. But yet, this is a story that transcends all things. It's a commandment. It's a process. It's humbling. Now, it isn't my job to rename Christian holidays or holy days, but if there would be, I might even change the name of Monday, Thursday to something like Love One Another Thursday or the last thing Christ really wanted us to know. Why? Because this is a message that we all need to hear. We don't need to just check it off as another night in Holy Week. We need to hear what Jesus has to say for us and what he said to his disciples. Maybe it would help us to remember. Maybe it would help us to remember not just what this night is about, but maybe it would help us remember what it means to be Christians. And maybe if we always had that reminder, if we always had that commandment to love in the front of our head, Christ's dream for us would come true. Maybe we wouldn't be known as Christ's disciples by the fact we put a Christian fish sticker on our car or wore a cross around our necks. Maybe we wouldn't be known by what we said about what we believe. Maybe we wouldn't be known by, what we did or what we didn't do. Maybe instead we would be known by just one thing Christ wanted us to be known for: by how we love. People will know we are Christians by our love. I want to encourage you this evening to put yourself in this story of the Last Supper and experience what the disciples may have felt. And I can assure you the feeling changes inside you when you realize the power of the story and the power of the Last Supper. Let us not forget the importance of Monday, Thursday. In love, we love other people. Christ claims all. Christ comes to humble himself, even in the darkest of hours, to remember us, to wash our feet, and to wipe us clean.